Good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to go right off the bat with my jokes.
Let's go.
What do you call a fish with no eye?
What's that?
A fish.
That does not deserve a laugh.
Well,
but here I am laughing.
I had to get one where I felt like you could get it.
Oh, come on.
Okay. One more, though.
Okay.
So there was a pastor. He was going on a fishing trip. And while he was on the fishing trip, the storm started rolling in. The sea started raging. And the captain hollers out and says, "Is there anybody on the boat who knows how to pray?" Well, the pastor stands up. Yes, I know how to pray. He said, "Good, great. You pray while the rest of us put these life jackets on. We're short one."
That's so good. That one deserved a laugh. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Hope for the Soul, where Pastor Calah is going to do some pastoring today.
No, I'm not. No
So,
pastoring.
I'm excited about this episode, but before we dive into today's content, I want to talk to you about what's coming. Next week, we're going beyond a sermon, and we're going to discuss one of Pastor Smith's sermons that he's preached the last few weeks. I'm really looking forward to that. And then following that, we're going to talk about missions leading up to the Conroe Church Missions Conference.
Yep.
But even if you don't go to Conroe Church, I think this is a very important episode for us.
Yes.
That we need to broaden our worldview, our kingdom view to what God is doing in the earth. Sometimes we forget that God's doing more around the world than he's doing just in our life.
Yep.
Then we're going to have an episode September 22nd with our friend Christian Collins. He has a large youth event that he does every year. And
Texas Youth Summit.
Texas Youth Summit. It's really awesome. If you're in the area, I highly encourage you to go. And then the last week of September, Brother Wayne Huntley is going to be on Hope for the Soul. That was a great episode.
He's one of my favorites.
It was a good episode. He's not only like there's some guys, conference speakers, men that you've seen your whole life that you're just like they say, you don't want to meet your heroes. But now that we've got to know him and stayed in contact with him, it really is. He's just a genuine guy. So, and it makes what you hear in public so much more stronger because more stronger. It makes it stronger. There you go. So let's dive into today's. Oh no, wait, hang on. I got to plug one more. October 3rd episode with the kids. Our kids are going to record an episode. We're going to have to be on it to try and make sure nobody does anything wrong or says anything bad. But whatever happens, we're not cutting out. It's going to be real and raw.
I almost remember Kinley told us a joke this past week, and we belly laughed. It was so funny. And I was going to use that today, but I thought, no, I'm going to let him
do it.
Let him do it on that episode.
That's going to be fun. So we wanted to do an episode with our kids for your kids.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We just feel like it's valuable for it to be relevant to everybody. Give your kids something to listen to in the car on the way to school, if it's just a few minutes, or in the afternoon. During your devotion time. We're not saying it's going to be a devotion, but it could be family time.
Hey, well, before podcasts became a thing, we as kids, we listened to stuff every night.
Unshackled.
After school.
Big John and Sparky.
Big John and Sparky.
Hi, kids.
And then before you went to bed, I felt like I couldn't go to bed without listening to an episode of Adventures in Odyssey.
Was at 7:30 or 8. And then the next segment, the next half hour after that was Unshackled.
Yeah.
Which was really cool.
So, honestly, it'd be just, taking it back a few years.
We're not saying that the episode on October 6th is going to be as good as Adventures in Odyssey or Unshackled. But we are saying that you and your family can listen to it, and hopefully you will enjoy it.
Yeah.
And you won't be disappointed. Hey, segue, because today
we're talking about
go ahead.
Disappointments.
Talk about disappointment. We all face disappointments in situations and people and finances. We've all, I think in my life, I think at times I've had more disappointments than high moments.
Mm-hmm.
But the high moments, the moments of provision, the moments where God stepped in, the moments where the relationship with friends or with family was just right,
Mm-hmm.
that far outweighs the down moments.
Yep.
And that, I don't mean for that to sound depressing, because I hope your life hasn't been like that, but probably it has been. It seems like the bad sometimes does outweigh the good, but the good is just that great to where we keep on striving for more of those moments. So what's on your mind today, babe?
So disappointments are as inevitable as calories and taxes. You have to change the way you think to change the way you feel.
That's good. We all hate calories. No, we love calories.
We love calories.
We all hate taxes.
We love the calories. So, but it's been decided that when handling or dealing with disappointments, it's just that you have to deal with it.
Have to deal with it.
You can't, if you don't deal with it, it's going to eat at you and cause many other things down the road. But in times of suffering through disappointment are oftentimes that we grow the most. Disappointment, hardships, we don't like them, but it's definitely a growing period.
I think naturally the human condition, we want to avoid suffering. But
no one wants to go through it.
Yeah, no one wants to go through suffering.
Mm-hmm.
That's natural. I mean, I think you're a little odd if you do. Oh, I'm thankful that today I get to suffer.
Right.
However, Scripture tells us that when we go through times of suffering, that's when God draws near to us. God draws near to the brokenhearted.
Right.
In our weakness, He is made strong. There's so many verses. Paul talks a lot about trials and tribulations in the New Testament. And so I don't think we should get excited about a hard time coming. However, we do recognize that Paul did talk about finding joy in tribulation.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily, we shouldn't necessarily click our heels because the trial's coming, but we should click our heels because in the middle of the trial, the joy of the Lord can find us and does often meet us there. And we know that His joy is our strength. So the sooner we learn to deal with our disappointment, with our suffering, the greater and the stronger, the faster we're going to come out of it.
Yeah. Have you ever asked yourself, Lord, who am I in you? I know, like, I have many times, and then it's like once you figure out, okay, this is who I am, boom, you feel a shift.
You do. You get confidence.
Yeah.
And it's natural for especially young adults, even if you're not a young adult, but you're entering into a new relationship, a new marriage or something like that, you are finding your new role in life. And a lot of times we view that as negative, but we are all lost in seasons of our life.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very important. Well, some of the most successful people in life, in business and ministry and family, no matter what demographic you want to put it in or what category you want to put it in sports, the best people, the best leaders, the strongest Christians, they are good at reinventing themselves. Mm-hmm. Because when they recognize the market shifting or something inside them is shifting, they're proactive. They deal with the shift in the market. They deal with the shift in their mind or in their spirit. And I think as believers, as Christians, especially you and I as leaders and the leaders that may be listening to this today, that we deal quickly with change. Yeah. We all hate change. Change is inevitable, and change brings disappointment. When big things in our life change, it's like a funeral. You know, when somebody walks out of your life, somebody changes churches, somebody decides to being one of your customers and they find a new vendor. These things in life, yeah, it's business, yes, it's church, yes, it's ministry, but it's all tied around relationship. And so when things change, we need to recognize that it's all right to grieve, it's okay to mourn, but we need to deal with it quickly, because if we don't deal with it, bitterness, mm-hmm. anger, mm-hmm. rage, depression, anxiety, emotions that you may not feel for years,
right?
But they are building inside of you, and there's going to come a moment where there's a tipping point, and you're going to recognize, I didn't deal with that. A lot of times we see people that are 40 years old that act like a 14-year-old. It's because something terrible happened to them that should have never happened, abuse or neglect or abandonment, and they never really adequately dealt with that. And so as an adult, when a trial comes, they revert back to their emotional dependency, or that's not the right word. They revert back to where they were in life, and they act at that age because that was the point that they quit dealing with things.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to deal with things as a 40-year-old or as a Christian because they haven't dealt with things properly.
How do you think you deal with change?
Nobody deals with change good. But I'm a guy who likes change. Like, I'm a guy who pushes change, okay? But when change comes that's not my idea, I don't like it. Like, that's real, that's raw, that's vulnerable. But I have to deal with it. I'm forcing myself to deal with it because as we change things in our organization, as we think change, when I say that, I mean here the church and our leadership.
Yeah.
When we change things here, I want people to buy into it and I want people to believe in it. So because of that, and I'm realizing that I really don't like change the older I get, I have to be slower and more methodical and sell the why over this is what we're changing. No, there's some things that need to change, but the reason why we're changing some things is because when we change this, it increases our capacity. It makes room for more growth. It's serving a broader picture. So to answer your question, I think I handle change okay, but I can probably handle change better, especially seeing the fact that if I want people to go along with my vision, there's sometimes that I need to be adaptive and cooperative with other people's vision and ideas.
I think I deal with change pretty good. I don't. Some situations I look at it as, family. If people move, whatever, I look at it as, what am I going to do about it? Can't do anything about it. And so I'm not going to let somebody else's life affect my life.
That's so good.
And this is so simple, but honestly, I think it has, because I've thought about this, because you and I do deal differently with change. You take it very hard, and
I take it personal.
Yes, you take it personal. And while it may, whatever the situation may be, while it may affect me some, I try not to let it show. I don't let it out. Because one, I can't change anything. If it's something out of my control, I can't change anything about it. But this is something, and I always revert back to this, and you're going to think this is funny, but I can remember being as young as probably 5-6 years old, and I would come home, and my mom would have the whole house changing furniture, pictures. It was always like that in our home. And that sounds so small, but it was, as a kid, it was change that I got used to all the time. And you laugh now because you wonder where I get it from. When I'm tired of a certain color.
There's always a redecorating project. There's always a paint color. Right now we're saving for living room furniture.
There's always something that has to be. It's change. Yep. It's change, and I mean that sounds like I'm not a professional, but
you are a professional at change.
But I have often wondered, like, is it something so small like that helped me? With that of Probably. Constantly seeing change. I've had family that moved away. And while I was sad for, a certain amount of time, I was like, okay, but, we'll see them. They'll come back and visit or whatever. And so I've often wondered, is that, a contributing factor as to why I deal with it differently? So I'm going to continue to do that in our kids and hoping that they'll deal with change pretty good.
The little girl's going to do all right with it.
Yeah.
But the little boys, you might struggle with.
Right. Disappointments don't always include just us. It's not a one-way street. Disappointments, they're always it goes both ways.
Yeah, because we can always justify our own actions.
Yeah.
But we struggle justifying the actions of others, even if their actions are the same as ours.
Uh-huh. And even, honestly, even if their reaction is better than ours, it's easy to justify ourselves and not justify them, even though they might have been the bigger Christian.
Folks, you are seeing why I let Calah write my sermons right here.
Oh, no. But we can suffer disappointment due to children, our marriage, being single, our careers. Like, those are huge disappointments. And disappointment often comes from trying to plan someone else's life, but more than life, trying to plan their reaction.
That's right. I think sometimes we can manipulate a situation or try to manipulate a situation to help us cope with an outcome that we like or maybe don't like. And that's not very healthy. Mm-hmm. That's why I think it's so important that we learn to, I've said this before, mind our own business.
Yeah.
Like, I ask myself that often. What business is it of mine?
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't like the answer that I have to truthfully give because that causes me to crucify my flesh or my motive or what I think I can do in a situation or in someone else's situation.
Well, it's easy to tell somebody else that when they may be meddling in our business. Hey, mind your own business. This is my affairs. But when it's us that could be doing the meddling, it's hard to say, Calah, mind your own business.
Yeah, I think especially like in our situation where on a daily basis people come to us and invite us into their business. Mm-hmm. I always want to tread very lightly and gracefully with that because the law of the harvest still applies. Now, the people that we lead and pastor, they respect, and they're not going to barge into our business. Most of them won't. But I still want to deal lightly and kindly and respectfully, and I never want to manipulate that and lose someone's trust.
Yeah, you don't want to take advantage of their trust that they have in us.
That's right. Because one instance could lose a lifetime of trust.
Right.
Can hurt a relationship. You might not lose it, but it puts you back years.
Right.
So I think it's very important. So from our perspective as pastors, that we tread lightly and we mind our own business. For instance, that's why I've taken a step away from social media. That's not the reason why, but an added benefit of why I've stepped back from social media. I've got back on it some the last couple of weeks, but I'm really taking a step back because I don't want what I see to affect how I lead.
Yeah.
And I don't want what I see, what I like, or what I see and I don't like to affect how I lead and love and preach and care. I really want to be led by the Holy Spirit and love people regardless of if they're doing things that I like or don't like. Mm-hmm. And that's just a part of me minding my own business so I won't feel disappointment.
Yep. Each of us deal with disappointments very differently. Very differently. We're all very uniquely wired differently. And that's the beauty of each and every person. How do you deal?
It depends on what it is. You really help me. I'm a thinker and a processor. So a lot of times if someone comes to me, hey, what do you think about this? I need to talk to you. Mm-hmm. Number one, I try and put them off, not to be disrespectful, but I think what that does is if in some cases, not in all cases, some cases I have to act quickly and you help me with that. But in some cases, if I delay, okay, I'll meet with you in 2 days, or I'm busy right now, I can't take your call, and I legitimately can't take it. Mm-hmm. Call me back at this time. What that does is that automatically puts me in the mind frame to pray and make sure that I'm right, make sure that I'm going to give good, solid advice
right.
Or comfort. But a lot of times it gives other people time to think longer. Because a lot of people, as soon as something happens, they pick up the phone and call. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that trust. But sometimes if you take things slowly, a lot of times the Lord will speak to you, and I won't have to. And so how I deal with disappointment and how I deal with things, like I initially said, I tend to be a slower processor. But I also recognize, and you're helping me so much with this, is there some things, like a couple weeks ago, somebody asked to talk, and I told you, I said, I want to put that off, and you said, no, you go meet with them right now. And you weren't telling me what to do. You weren't being domineering and controlling, but you saw in me that if we didn't handle something quickly, that it could have been much worse.
Right.
So I think that's the value of a team. That's the value of working together like we do.
Well, we're in the people business.
All of us are in the people business.
And we have to be able to learn to deal with all sorts of people. And the disappointments, they're going to come. And if we don't deal with them correctly, it could cause more harm than good. And you just said, like that situation that we needed to deal with that, have that talk or whatever, pretty much right then and there. But then there's some situations that they don't have to have that they need that time. And maybe even nothing needs to truly be said, with that disappointment. Maybe God can work it out.
Yeah. This is a little off, but going back to this, sometimes people really need our advice and our help. And that's very humbling.
Yeah. Yeah.
More times than not, though, people just need to be heard.
Yeah.
And I think that's valuable. And that's not really what we're talking about today, but that I just wanted to say that
right.
That so much of what we do, because we are in the people business, is we just honor and respect and give people an ear that they can whisper in, a shoulder that they can lean on, an arm that they can hug. But going back to our topic today, I think a lot of times we have disappointment because people are different than us. And the sooner we can celebrate our differences, diversity is a really powerful thing. That's why God made us differently. That's why Paul wrote about the body of the Christ. He wrote about the body of Christ. We are all have different roles and different functions, but the arm can't function without the right arm can't function well without the left arm. The right foot needs the left foot. And we all have different roles and responsibilities in the body of Christ. And when we view our roles and responsibilities in a negative light because someone else's role is different than mine, then that puts us at a war against each other, and we're not able to be effective. Maya Angelou said this: in diversity, there's beauty and strength. And we're seeing it right now in Conroe Church. There's so much diversity, like not just in skin color, but in culture, in a lot of different ways, in areas that personally kind of make me uncomfortable at times. But we had conversations this weekend that made me uncomfortable. But when I listen and hear, really, everybody feels a lot alike. Their life experiences,
but it challenges you.
Yeah, it makes me better.
Yeah, it challenges you to not just think. Now, I'm not going to change the way I think.
No, core convictions, no.
I'm not going to change the way I think.
If they're based on the Bible.
Right. There's certain things that, like, I'm not budging on.
That's right.
But yet, different perspectives gives you a different view on how you, okay, well, hold on, I need to think harder about why do I believe this?
Yeah. And also, whenever you don't value someone's differences, you're not valuing them.
Right. So true.
We felt that.
Yeah.
Because we think differently than some people.
Yeah.
We've been a part of things that we've not a part of anymore, not for any problems, but just if you're not going to value me, I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah.
And that's not a criticism. That's not anger. That's not bitterness. There's none of that there. But the more we recognize diversity and how your perspective I might not agree with, but your perspective actually helps me and strengthens me.
Right.
And I don't have to be, I don't have to feel inferior, or I don't have to be intimidated, or I equally don't have to be haughty and arrogant.
Right.
I can have a humble, meek, right spirit and truly allow our different perspectives to strengthen me. Different perspectives, ideas, and voices are valuable and crucial to our growth. If you want to grow, you have to do something you've never done.
Yeah.
You have to expand your thinking.
That's change.
Exactly. And I don't like it. No one likes it. But I think we have to put ourselves in vulnerable positions to where it's easier for us to put ourselves in a difficult situation to grow ourselves than to resist it, and God put us in a position.
Yeah.
Because if God puts us in a position to grow,
you're going to change.
You're going to change.
Yeah.
Or you're going to circle the same mountains over, or the same mountain, the same struggle over and over again until you catch that lesson. In your notes, not my notes, in your notes.
I know where you're going.
You talked about sometimes we have disappointment because people criticize us.
Yeah.
And this is very real for everybody, not just us. You know, there's a lot of people that says, I deal with this, especially in our line of work and ministry. We like to have competitions of who's been criticized the most, who's been hurt the hardest. Right. We all have, and that's kind of how we cope sometimes. But I don't want to, this isn't just a ministry or preacher problem. Everybody faces criticism. Yeah. And the Bible gives us wisdom and guidance on how to handle that. Paul said in Romans 12, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Mm-hmm. You cannot bless someone that you're criticizing back.
Yes.
And this is something that we've learned and will always learn until the day we die. Mm-hmm. It's extremely difficult to bless people who are incapable of blessing you back. But yet Scripture gives us the mandate. This is not a declarative sentence. This is not a declaration, a suggestion. Mm-hmm. Paul was giving an imperative sentence. In other words, says, I understood you before the word bless. Yeah. Trent, bless those who persecute you. Trent, bless and do not curse those people. Jesus talked a lot about that in his first major sermon. Mm-hmm. He talked about...
He knew.
Amazingly, he knew. He knew.
He knew.
In the Beatitudes.
Yep.
It's powerful whenever we grasp this, and you and I are still learning this, even recently. We've shed tears.
Yeah.
But when I've been able to get down and pray, the other day we got down and prayed, and I prayed blessing on someone who's hurt me. And I'm still hurting.
It's hard. You kind of grit your teeth when you're praying it, but
I didn't want to say their name. I didn't want to say their name.
We have to.
But I had to.
We have to love unconditionally.
That's right.
No matter how much hurt has been done to us, no matter what we've been through, the people who have caused the pain, who have caused the disappointment, we have to love unconditionally. Otherwise, what we're doing is a lie.
That's exactly right. We have to respond like this, number one, because the Bible instructs us to. And if we live a way that goes against the Bible, then we are wrong. Mm-hmm. We are living a life of sin. To him that knoweth to do good and does it not, to him it is sin. So that's number one. Number two, we're just hurting ourselves.
Yeah.
We're going to continue the cycle of disappointment if we don't grow and bless those who curse us, and wish well on those who speak ill of us.
Yeah.
And we also must remember that there's been times that we have hurt people.
Absolutely.
That I have spoken ill of somebody.
Absolutely. It's that two-way street.
Sometimes we forget that we're people.
Yeah.
Sometimes we forget that we can hurt people just like people can hurt us.
Yeah. We've all made purchases that we later very much regretted.
Oh, yeah.
I've not necessarily that I made a purchase that I regret a couple weeks ago. The coffee table.
Oh, goodness.
That's a whole nother story.
I forgot about that. I was trying to block that one out. It's PTSD.
But we've all made those purchases that later you're like, I really didn't need that.
Didn't need it.
Didn't need it.
Didn't need that coffee table, but there it sits.
And yeah, not that story, but yeah, that's just a whole nother story.
I'm teasing you.
But those those purchases that, goodness, I could have saved that money. And, you know, it's a joke, but they caused you to go bankrupt. I mean, yeah.
Coffee table didn't bankrupt
No,
us.
it did not bankrupt us, but you get what I'm trying to say. But disappointment can bankrupt us.
Emotionally, physically, spiritually.
And it is you and I who lets that happen if we don't deal with it.
No one goes into bankruptcy because of someone else.
No.
There's no financial bankruptcy because someone else made you do something. No, you made the purchase.
Right.
You ran up the credit card. You purchased too much.
Yeah.
And you didn't have the ability. You guaranteed the loan, but yet you didn't have the ability to guarantee it.
Right.
The same is true with our emotions and our spiritual life.
Yeah.
You don't go morally bankrupt because somebody made you sin. Nobody made you sin. Scripture says, to every temptation there is a way of escape. There might be a strong desire to sin. That is within each and every one of us and will always be. But you don't go morally bankrupt because someone else. You go morally bankrupt because you lacked the ability to deny your flesh.
Yeah.
I'm speaking a lot right now about this.
Mm-hmm.
I told ministry development last week, we have to possess our vessel with sanctification and honor. That is not an option. Yeah. That is a mandate of Scripture. Yes, it's Paul's words, but it's God speaking through Paul to the church of Thessalonica, but not just to that church and those leaders, to this church and these leaders, to this church and these parishioners. We must possess our vessel with sanctification and honor, because if we do not do that, we will have to pay.
Yeah, yeah. And
a lot of times when we act on our temptations, when we act out of impulse, we don't have the capital to cover the cost of our actions. And that's why I'm thankful over the Wayne McLean.
Yeah.
We have an advocate with the Father.
Yes.
My goodness.
You're going to make me cry.
I know. I'm fighting it back right now. You're
going to make me cry. I've asked you how you deal with disappointment.
How do you deal with disappointment?
This is how I deal with it. And I didn't learn this right off the bat. This has taken me years to learn this, because how I used to deal with disappointment was, I'm never going to let it out. You are not going to see my disappointment. You're not going to see my hurt. You're not going to see my pain, because it's staying right here. And I will laugh to keep from crying. And I'm not going to put on a facade, because I still can be that way. That's just my personality of, I don't take myself serious enough. And so let's laugh to cover up everything type of deal.
It's a coping mechanism.
Yes, it is. And but how I deal with it, with disappointment, I give myself enough time, whatever the situation may be. If it's sad, if it's mad, I give myself to go through those phases. And sometimes it don't happen in just a few hours. Sometimes it may take a day or two. And I may, you are my ear. And so I may say something to you and then go a few hours, and I'm probably still thinking about it.
Oh, you are.
Probably still thinking about it. And then I come back, you know what? I've got some more for you. Mm-hmm. But give yourself time because what that is releasing that from your chest. You're getting it all off of your chest.
God gave us emotions for a reason.
Yeah.
I was telling my Thursday Bible study last week that God gives us emotions. Anger is not bad. Scripture says, be angry and do not sin. Anger is completely okay. God gave that. Anger doesn't feel like a gift, but anger is a gift from God.
Yeah.
It helps us process when we've done wrong. These other emotions, sadness, tears. Oh my goodness. Tears I'm a crier. Okay, I cry in good times. I cry in bad times. I'm a crybaby. That is a gift that God gives His children to help cope and navigate the tumultuous seasons of life.
Yeah.
And we all process things differently, but we all have the same emotions.
Yeah.
And whenever we can use the emotions that God has given us and view that as a gift from God, we will learn to deal with the heartbreak, the disappointment, the change, the trials of life in a much more healthy manner.
I'm a crier now. I haven't always been a crier.
Sometimes we cry together.
I am a crier now because, like I said, I haven't learned how to deal until years of keeping it all bottled inside of me. And even the smallest things, the smallest disappointments, even those, like I was not going to let it out. And I thought crying was a sign of weakness, and that if I truly let it out, that, gosh, there's years bottled up inside of there. Years and years. So I give myself enough time to go through all those emotions and then just give it to God.
Excuse me. The emotions help us get it out of our spirit and out of our system, for lack of a better phrase. But it's also the tool that we give it back to God.
Yeah.
Give it to God.
Yeah.
Give it to God.
And when you give it to God, you may have time to, okay, well, I really don't need to face this disappointment. You know, God has settled this disappointment within myself. And then sometimes you have to deal with it. And then sometimes you've got to deal with it instantly. And when that happens, I just give caution, because sometimes we're dealing with it instantly because of us and not God.
Are you dealing with it instantly because the situation calls for that? Or are you dealing with it instantly because the anger is leading you to sin?
Yeah.
Anger's okay.
Yeah.
But don't let anger turn into rage and fury.
Right. I have had this book for several years, and there's been many times that I've referred back to this book. I love it. Everyone watching, it is called Lessons We've Learned, and this is a book by brother and sister Tenney. They wrote this book together.
Heroes of the faith.
Yes. And Sister Tenney put in this book, you will repeat the lessons that you do not learn. Another important truth, you will repeat the lessons that you don't learn. She said in her book, I've been around a few mountains many times before I learned the intended lesson. I don't want to do that. I have done that.
We've done it.
Yeah.
We probably will in the future.
Yeah.
But the sooner that we learn to embrace the process.
God, what are you trying to show me? What am I not getting? She said in the book, remember the children of Israel went around the same mountain 40 years in the wilderness and kept repeating the same mistakes. I don't want to repeat that for 40 years.
We've all failed.
Yeah.
We've all of us have fallen short of the glory of God, as Scripture says. But I think we need to recognize that in these moments, God gives us strength.
Yes.
And you don't have to live in condemnation.
Yeah.
Because we are in Christ, and Scripture tells us there is no condemnation.
Tests and disappointments, they have a purpose, and they're not meant to fail us. Rather, they're meant to advance us.
That's powerful.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling y'all, if y'all don't have that book, get it. It's called Lessons We've Learned.
Especially young ministry couples.
Yes.
Lessons We've Learned. Incredible, incredible. Calah, I haven't read it, but Kalah's read most of it to me driving down the road. And there's times that we've just cried
Yeah.
You know, and because we recognize that we're not alone in this. And this is for ministry couples, but the principles in this book are really life principles.
Right.
I would recommend this book to anyone.
Yeah.
It's important for us to learn how to handle criticism. You know, a minute ago you said we're in the people business.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is in the people business. I don't care here in Houston if you're in the medical industry, if you're in education. Montgomery County, the largest employer is the school district, Conroe ISD. Yeah. Then it's the medical field, oil and gas. We've got ExxonMobil world headquarters right here in our county. We've got all these different industries. But at the end of the day, it's all people. Mm-hmm. It's all relationships. And criticism comes with that. And so we need to learn how to handle criticism because it's going to come. When somebody says something bad about you, when somebody says something that hurts you, whether it be false or true, here's what we've learned, and our parents have helped us a lot with this, that to every bit of criticism, every bit of it, there's a little bit of truth.
Yeah.
Some of it's 100% true.
Mm-hmm. But
even the stuff we say, oh, that's a lie.
Yeah.
There might be lies in it, but there's something we can learn from that and grow from that and make ourselves better from. I think that's why we need to be slow to judge.
Yeah.
We have to be slow to judge, quick to forgive. Ooh, I don't want to forgive. Mm-hmm. I want to carry it.
Yeah.
But
hold it over their heads.
Oh, yeah. Manipulate them.
Yeah.
Manipulate them.
Nope.
It's wrong. It's sin.
Disappointments are burdens that we don't need to carry. It's not our job to carry it.
So powerful. So simple.
So simple. Give it to God.
Give it to God. Ultimately, God handles disappointment better than we do.
Absolutely.
Yet he allows us to face disappointment.
Yep.
I think he allows that because our trials make us stronger if we allow him to get in the middle of our disappointments.
You know, and I think if the same disappointment keeps happening, there's something that we're not learning.
We have to dig deep.
Yeah.
Get a counselor.
Yeah.
Get a prayer closet first.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Find an honest friend.
Yeah. Find
a friend that will risk offending you.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good friend, by the way.
That's a good friend.
Yeah.
That's a good friend. That's the iron sharpens iron.
Mm-hmm.
We can go all day, babe.
Yeah.
We need to stop. The timer says 50 minutes. We haven't gone 50 minutes because there's a lot of banner before. So I don't know how long we've gone, but if you've made it this far in the episode, thank you for listening.
Yes.
Thank you for listening, and it's our desire to offer you a little hope, and we hope that you have found hope today. A little laughter, maybe a little therapy. Mm-hmm. Disclaimer: we are not licensed.
No, we're not.
We're not licensed therapists or counselors. Take everything we said with a grain of salt. No, but seriously, thanks guys for listening, and we value the time that you give us, and we recognize that your time is valuable. So we want to respect that and honor that, and hopefully give you content that furthers your life and makes you better. So we'll see you again next week here on Hope for the Soul. Bye, guys.